This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All righty, there he is, the man, the myth, the legend. That is Ira Winderman. Ira, how you doing, my brother? How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, Big O. Undefeated preseason. Don't know what that really means, but you know what? I guess like people always say, it beats the alternative.
Yeah, no, actually, it does mean something. It means squat in the standings and all that crap. But chemistry is very important because we always wonder and worry about when you add new players, how long will it take for chemistry to take over? And the good thing for the Miami Heat is most of the players you added are very smart, high IQ veterans. And that's what I've seen in the 4 games, and 4 games that they really haven't played everybody. Like yesterday, we didn't see Butler. But even that, even with the guys off the court, like a Butler, Lowry is smart enough to create the chemistry with the people that are on the court. And even the give and go with Bam yesterday, where he feeds Bam and then Bam feeds Lowry back for the layup, all these kind of little things, at least in my eyes, if I'm going to put a positive spin on it, I like the chemistry I've seen in 4 games.
Yeah, I think Kyle Lowry's plug and play. I think you could put him on any of the 30 NBA teams, and he's going to know what to do. He's a pro's pro. Look, there's a downside to a 35-year-old. He's a 35-year-old. There's a reason not everyone was willing to give him $85 million over 3 years. It's a risk in the year ahead. But the advantage of a 35-year-old, he's seen it all. He's done it all. He's been in camps with all kinds of system. He arrives, he plays his game. PJ Tucker, just a winner in Houston, a winner, of course, with a championship in Milwaukee. He knows what that means. Markieff Morris feeling his way a little bit more, and we're seeing a little bit more uneven play out of him because of that. But what you're seeing is guys who have the right mentality, that this matters, that it's important, that they want to prove themselves. Bam talking to us last night about how this isn't the dog pound, this is the kennel, because there are a bunch of hungry dogs who want to get out of here. So they have that good attitude. Not going to overstate. Look, they had a kid make a 3-point play in the last few seconds who's not going to be on this team when the season starts. God bless Javonte Smart. Maybe down the road, we've seen this with Tyler Johnson. He had a good preseason, went to Sioux Falls, came back, had a very productive NBA career. So you're developing that also down the road. But the most important thing, or as Pat Riley would say, the main thing being the main thing, is that the core pieces seem to fit, is that the young players have improved and they're showing development. We've seen that similarly with the Panthers, which is why we're hopeful for them. We've seen it with the Marlins until they trade the players who develop. We haven't always seen that with the Dolphins. So I think the Heat, what they're saying is, yes, they're also bringing back a bunch of pieces, but they're better pieces. Tyler Hero clearly has improved. Bam Adebayo clearly has improved. The preseason has given us that, and that's important as well, Big O.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've been wanting and I've been talking to you about throughout the offseason leading up to this is I want the young guys to kind of be that offensive engine throughout the season where the veterans can complement. And then once the playoff starts, then the veterans can help close games and do all those kind of things. We've kind of been seeing that in the preseason, that the young guys have been carrying the offensive load a lot more, and I like that a lot. With Hero, he has been terrific overall. Bam has been too. Duncan is steady. Strus is adding to the mix. If you get the consistent offense from those 4 young guys, you're going to keep those veterans fresh for the postseason run.
Yeah, Kyle Lowry will score when he needs to, when he has to, not when he wants to. Kyle Lowry's not arriving here. 2 things: to lead the league in scoring, to put up gaudy stats. And you know what? This is another part of it. The Heat gave, like I said, a 35-year-old player an $85 million contract. Kyle Lowry's not playing for his next contract. Kyle Lowry doesn't have to go out there and load up the numbers because when this deal's over, I'm getting another one. I think it's safe to say God bless the young middle-aged man, however you want to put it, but this is it. This is the end of gravy train time. He'll be 38 years old at the end. He certainly can continue on. Dwayne Wade certainly showed there was more at the end. There have been players who've pushed into the 40s. Maybe the Tom Brady thing will take over in the NBA. But this is it for Kyle Lowry. This is what he was setting himself up for in Toronto with the championship. with being safe with his playing time last season when his team wasn't going anywhere. So he's settled in right now, and he talks about that this is the place he's going to be. He's going to make it work. So that's sort of a heartening thing about giving an older player a contract. He's not playing for numbers. He's not playing for stats. He's not playing for a contract. So I think that'll have a payoff as well. All of that said, I still think this team, and I know you've followed me for years on this, needs another point guard. And I have said this forever, that he'd never carry in a secondary point guard. Again, my answer to this whole thing is trade KZ Okpala and his contract to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are under the NBA salary floor, send out an extra $1 million, basically tell Sam Presti, hey, you just won $1 million with your scratch-off ticket. That opens the spot for a veteran. Bring in Jeff Teague. It gives you a veteran guy. I'm not saying you're going to play him every game. I'm not saying you're going to play him every week. But when Kyle Lowry does miss time, you have that veteran presence because you know what? It's interesting. You mentioned just now several young players, but you didn't mention Gabe Vincent. And you've always been a champion.
That's right.
You've been a champion of the young players. I mean, this has basically been the Briante Weber show wherever I followed you across the radio, for the last 5 years or so. But that's still a question mark. And even last night when Gabe Vincent got back after missing a couple of games, really wasn't a factor. We really didn't talk about him. I think you need a backup point guard. You don't want to add that to Jimmy's plate again. And even I just posted at sunsentinel.com a story about Bam Adebayo. Now that he doesn't have to be a playmaker, he joked last night that Kyle Lowry is stealing his assist. You're able to see him develop more of his offensive game. He doesn't have to start at the high post and at the elbow anymore. He can start where center start in the low post and work on that. He did in the second quarter last night. I think if you had one more point guard, it would make it easier. Maybe Pat Riley listens. I know he is just sitting there at 601 Biscayne right now, smashing that like button. So hopefully he listens and lets us know.
I was talking about this yesterday, Ira, and I find it so cool that the start of the season is freaking awesome for Heat fans because you open against Milwaukee, then you go to Indiana, and then I know Orlando isn't sexy, but they've been such a pain in the ass that it's still satisfying to beat them.
Even in the post-Fournier, time when he's been the biggest pain in the ass, and he's gone now first to the Celtics and then to the Knicks. So you have all that. And then, I know where you're leading with this also.
And at Brooklyn.
This unbelievable, intriguing game at Brooklyn and what's going on with Kyrie Irving. And I know tomorrow on the Pallet Rock City Inside the Paint, I'll get more into that with Clay Ferraro, and we'll discuss that. But that's just crazy that if you play, think about this, usually if you play a team on their home court, they have a built-in advantage, right? In other words, you say, okay, if we play Brooklyn 4 times, let's get the 2 home games at FTX Arena. We'll probably go up there and struggle. Road is hard in the NBA. It's the opposite now. It's that when you face the Nets in Brooklyn, it's without Kyrie Irving, and you're going to see more of Patty Mills. And when you face them at FTX Arena, it'll be, we think, with Kyrie Irving. It's a real strange dynamic that the Brooklyn Nets fans don't get to see the best of the Brooklyn Nets, at least while Kyrie's unvaccinated, at least while New York's rules are the same.
And here am I getting a booster shot over the weekend. How about that? I mean,
No, I mean, the more the merrier. If I can get a 4th or a 5th or whatever, you know what? I'm almost looking at my Pfizer vaccine as last call at the bar. Hey, bartender, I'll take a couple of over here before you shut it down while you're ringing that bell at the end of the day. It's crazy.
Some antibodies, baby. I want more antibodies.
And you know what? And he's also a vice president to the Players Association. And I don't understand that kind of leadership because the Players Association, they understands what's at stake also. But I also understand another thing. Living in this beautiful state of Florida, politics plays into this also. What if Kyrie gets reclassified as a Jersey resident and as a visiting entertainer? Is there a way out around that? Just like visiting unvaccinated players can play in Madison Square Garden, can play in Barclays Center. You have that. There's a mayoral election coming up in New York. Bill de Blasio is moving on, going to try to run for governor. Who's to say the next mayor doesn't come in and tweak the rules a little bit? I mean, look, he will carry Brooklyn if you tell him you're getting Kyrie back for home games. So you have that going on. I think Kyrie can go unvaccinated and find his way back to home games because I think the politics of the situation will play into that as well. So I think that's going to be a factor. I think it's more short-term than anything, but it's crazy. And now you're reading the stories out of New York that Durant and Harden are going to ownership and the coaches and saying, We've got to be one or the other. We can't be these two different teams. Crazy times. And as always, when there's crazy times, who's right in the middle of it?
Kyrie Irving, of course.
Exactly.
That's who's always in the middle of all the crazy times. Speaking of crazy times, last night it was crazy times in Philadelphia because Ben Simmons showed up. So is this about not losing money? What's the deal? Is this a hold-in type of thing that the NFL players were doing like X was with the Miami Dolphins? What are we reading into this?
No, X was different. I think he was classy enough that he came around. I wouldn't put him in that class. This is the James Harden approach. This is, if my absence didn't spur you to make a trade, you are going to regret my presence. And you remember what it was like with James Harden. He wasn't working out with his teammates. He was showing up late to this. He was giving a half effort, whether the jersey was tucked in too tight or not. He was
clearing out the buffet table.
Exactly. He was putting out a physique that made you wonder, you know what? That's how you get things done in today's NBA. And it's unfortunate. But the fact is, when you're out of sight, you're out of mind. And the Sixers are saying, you know what? We got Joel Embiid. We got Tobias Harris. We got Danny Green. We have some nice young players here also. We'll be fine. You can survive that. You can't when a player shows up, Jimmy Butler in that practice in Minnesota, your perfect example, and Rachel Nichols was there and he's wearing the Rolex and did his whole routine. That's what's going to happen. You're going to see those moments. It was a lot better off for Doc Rivers when Ben Simmons wasn't there. The Sixers should have done something because they needed to do something. But Daryl Morey is that one of those GMs who always tries to win the trade. One of the first lessons, and you were here from the start. The Heat's first GM, Stu Inman, when he came in here from the Portland Trail Blazers, I sat down with him and I said, you know what? I want to learn it all. Explain to me trades. And he said, you know what? You don't try to win a trade. You try to craft a trade where both teams feel good about themselves. Because when you do that, you retain your trade partners. People believe that you're a trustworthy person. You're not going to go back on your road. I'm going to get value last time, so I'll come back to you for value next time. I think Daryl Morey so much wants to try to win the trade, and this is what I don't understand, Big O. I can understand him saying, if we send Ben Simmons out, we want a quality player for a win-now team now. Hell, maybe even Kyrie Irving. But he also wants draft choices. Come on. We went through Sam Hinkie. We went through the process. The Sixers have had enough draft choices and blown enough draft choices. How does a draft choice now help Joel Embiid? How does it help Tobias Harris? How does it help a Doc Rivers who left the rebuilding Clippers to go to the Sixers because he wants to win? So I think the Sixers have to be more realistic. They can't say, hey, we want De'Aaron Fox and we want 3 first-round picks. You know, they have to say, this is what's doable. We know Damian Lillard's not doable. We think Bradley Beal's not doable. CJ McCollum could be doable. It might be as simple as a straight-up trade and not getting the picks. But I think the Sixers need to do something or else it's going to be a disaster because Jimmy Butler showed us how much of a disaster it can be because James Harden showed us how much of a disaster it can be.
Got to tell you, man, that is one wacky story, and I don't know how it's going to end. And I would imagine that it's going to be, TNT they're saying was TNT drama, and it used to be NBA is fantastic. Yes. But we got to switch it around now, right? Because the NBA is drama now. I mean,
and again, you know what? And that's the shame. And I've spoken to players about it. This league is more than Kyrie Irving. This league is more than Ben Simmons. There are some fascinating stories in the NBA this season. There are teams that deserve attention, whether it's the move of Kyle Lowry, coming down here to the Miami Heat, whether it's other teams bolstering, whether it's what happens to Damian Lillard, like I said, or Bradley Beal, and the real typical trade rumors we're talking about, guys who are being professional. And if Damian Lillard gets moved, he's not going to sabotage the Blazers. He feels too much for that city. If Bradley Beal gets himself moved, he's not going to sabotage the Wizards. He feels too much for the city. That's the difference. We should spend more time talking about the good guys, but just like politics and just like entertainment, we don't. Just like rock and roll, we don't. Right. We talk about the bad boys because they're more fascinating. And that's a shame because I think Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons have skewed the preseason to what's going to be a really intriguing start once again to a real 82-game NBA season.
Well, what was the shirt? What was the T-shirt that Anthony Davis wore to the Pelicans practice? To
Yeah, I
that
remember that. Yeah.
I forgot, what was it? Was it like a Mickey Mouse shirt or something? Or
It was not casting his own team in the best light,
yeah,
and
it was something. I forgot what it was,
and
but
those are all
that's
the Rich Paul productions of I'm going to get my guy to my place and make it happen. Look, we know the players run the NBA. We know the agents run the NBA. But you know
yeah,
what? As a fan, I like watching basketball every now and then also.
yeah. No, I'm with you there, man. I can't wait for Thursday. It's going to be a lot of fun. And one of the things that I think I think these moves, while at first we were kind of taken aback a little bit because of the commitments to older players, but as time has gone on, at least I can only speak for myself.
Mhm.
I've gotten more and more pumped up about the season and more excited about the season and more hopeful about the season because of some of the drama that's going on in other places. There's no drama here, and there are veterans here, and there's a defensive mindset now on this team. And the right things fall into place. Miami could be in the NBA Finals this year.
Yeah. Oh, I'd like to see one more dress rehearsal this preseason. I really enjoyed what we saw in Houston. For those who stayed up late enough last week
Yeah,
on Thursday night, that was fun. When you had Lowry and you had Butler and you had Adebayo and they played together. My thought is you have two exhibitions remaining. One Thursday in Atlanta. I'll join you again on the Acura Pembroke Pines report before that game, and then Friday at home. Weird 6:30 start time because of the WNBA Finals after on ESPN2. I think
hmm,
Spo plays the young guys on Thursday because he probably still
right.
cut some of the young guys after that. And then he gives us a nice dress rehearsal in that Celtics game. Boston will be without Jaylen Brown, but that's a rival. That always means a little bit more. There's a remix there. You have, Al Horford, you have Dennis Schroeder, you even have old friend Josh Richardson. So I think that's a game to sort of go out and play. My feeling is
It's
Heat
almost a
light again.
survival game. Those are
Yeah.
that game's almost a survival. Like it's like the fourth preseason game in the NFL. Like, yeah, we're not gonna play a lot of people here.
Yeah, but I think because the Heat have 5 days off before they play again. They have Saturday off, Sunday, Monday,
Yeah, we have
Tuesday,
Christmas.
Wednesday, and then they play the Bucks that Thursday. So you also want to have a certain degree of sharpness. This isn't a once a week league like the NFL. So I think it might make sense also on Friday. So I think you'll see at least one more dress rehearsal if everyone is healthy.
I can't wait for Thursday. I mean, that's going to be a lot of fun. The start of this season is going to be exciting, and you know what? Considering the NBA that we don't really take the regular season that seriously because sometimes it doesn't mean
Right.
that much. For the Heat, it means a lot. Actually, they
Yeah,
don't. They
well,
don't
it
want to.
does also because of the playing round, because that changed things. It used
Yeah,
to
you
be,
got to get away from
finish
that.
top 8, you're fine. You got to be top 6 now. The regular season maybe matters less for this reason. It's crazy. 20 of the 30 teams will make the playoffs in some form, including obviously the playing round. But if you have real visions of something, you don't want to finish 7th or 8th and play
No,
Brooklyn, assuming they'll be whole, or play Milwaukee. And you don't want to play in the one loss or two loss and out playing rounds. So you're playing for top 6. And again, and we'll get into this a little bit more as we stand on the eve of the season. But Milwaukee and Brooklyn, even without Kyrie, when you have Harden, you have Durant, you're good, are going to be very good. And then Boston's going to be intriguing. And Philadelphia to some extent will be intriguing. And Atlanta has all that young talent. So if you're not careful and you let a New York or an Indiana or Chicago sneak in there, you could be in trouble. But you also have to balance the rest there, which is why, to sort of bring this thing full circle, like you said at the top, if the young players like Hero
yes.
and Adebayo and Robinson can help early, it'll save the other players for late. The notion's been out there of Tyler Hero being the Heat's leading scorer points per game this season might not be a bad one and might be helpful. Jimmy don't need his points. He does other stuff. Kyle Lowry doesn't need his points. He gets an assist. Bam's going to fill the box score out more than be a leading man as he still sort of works through his offense. So again, if the kids handle it early, I think the older guys can bring it home at the end.
What do you got planned for tomorrow inside the paint, ladies and gentlemen? Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. with Ira and Clay. What are you guys talking about?
We're going to look forward, obviously, to the last 2 exhibition games. We're also going to talk about Jimmy Butler coming back and what he brings and the dynamic of this team. We're also going to sort of see how the rotation shakes out. That have we reached a point now, one of your favorites, if the Strus is on the loose, is Max Strus a rotation player? Should he be? Is Gabe Vincent a rotation player? Should he be? And the intriguing, we didn't get into this today, we'll get into tomorrow. Caleb Martin started in place of Jimmy Butler. On one hand, he went against his twin brother, Cody Martin. That was a hell of a story last night. But you know what? The kid's good. But he's limited to 50 games this season. So do they change his two-way contract? Will there be some maneuvering at the roster deadline? Again, tomorrow, Pembroke City inside the paint at 9 a.m. here with Clay Ferraro. We're going to talk about the Heat have cut-down day on Saturday. By 5 p.m., they have to make their move, so players clear by cut-down time on Monday. Probably we know what's going to happen, but it's Pat Riley, it's Andy Ellisberg. You never truly know what's going to happen, so I think that's interesting. And all of a sudden, KZ Okpala remains out of view with his Achilles injury. We'll talk about that again tomorrow. That's a concern also. And you know what? Like you say, one of the most important skills in any sport is availability.
Yes.
Not been a lot of availability with KZ Okpala over his 3 seasons with the Heat.
Yeah, and he barely even plays. All right, anyway, follow him on Twitter at Ira Heapy. Catch him tomorrow with the Pallet Rack City Inside the Paint Show. And, of course, catch him twice a week. He'll be back on Friday for the Acura Pembroke Pines.
Actually, this week on Thursday. Because I'll be in Atlanta, and I'm going to get some of them good. I'm going to get some of them good chicken wings there in Atlanta that Jamal Crawford has turned us all on to. So I'm rather Lou Williams turned us all on to in the bubble. Yeah. So that'll be interesting. And like I told my wife, I'm just going for the wings, and that's it. And then I'll be back in my hotel room. So hopefully there's no distraction in the back of my hotel room when we talk on Thursday.
Yeah, next week we'll get him back on Friday after the home opener on Thursday, which can't wait for Thursday, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Ira, thank you as always, my friend. I appreciate you.
Talk to you. Thank you.
You got it. There you go. Our Acura Pembroke Pines, Miami Heat, and NBA report.